I am now safe thanks to Kind and living with my father, who I had not seen in a long time. I think about all the children that have been taken from their parents at the border and separated. My heart breaks. How is Kind helping them?
It's a very powerful question. Wendy, you started to talk a little bit about some of the work Kind has done with separated kids. I don't know if you want to start with this question.
Sure, and then I'd love to hear Secretary Clinton's thought. So yes, kind kicked in immediately when we heard that the administration had instituted this policy of literally ripping children out of the arms of their parents when they arrived at the border seeking asylum. This was truly an extraordinarily low point in U.S. immigration history. And we deployed a team of lawyers to the border almost immediately, first to meet with the parents, although we normally work with the children. The average age of the children who were arriving and being separated from the kids was extraordinarily young. Our youngest client was 4 months old. Very difficult to work with a 4-month-old. So we felt it was important first and foremost to meet with those parents and hear from them why they had come to the United States and what they knew about where their children were. And what we heard very quickly was that so many of them did not even know where their child had been taken to. Can you imagine the trauma that parent experienced, let alone the child? So we then kicked in and since then have provided legal representation to roughly 1,100 separated families, both here in the United States to help them determine what they want to do in terms of accessing their rights here and pursuing asylum, as well as working with parents who tragically were deported during this process while their kids were left behind to help them identify what they wanted to do for themselves and their children. We also supported the ACLU in its litigation of the family separation policy that thankfully resulted in a positive decision where the federal court judge found the policy to be unlawful. Unfortunately, the administration has still found ways to separate families even after that court decision. But Secretary Clinton, just to kick it back to you, I wonder what your thoughts are in terms of these kind of harsh actions that the administration has taken, and how do we restore stability and humanity to our immigration system moving forward?
Well, Wendy, one of the important points you made at the end is that even when the administration loses a lawsuit about the policies that they have used to, what in this case, separate children, they don't obey the law. I mean, they are so absolutely willing to violate the law at every turn. There was a consent decree, the so-called Flores consent decree, that was already in effect. But they don't seem to respect the rule of law. They don't seem to be in any way deterred from continuing their illegal policies under a different name or in an evasive way. So we're really at a terrible point when the policies are unlawful or have been determined to be unlawful. They violate laws, they violate consent decrees, and yet the administration continues to deploy them. As Wendy said earlier, prior policy, and they are willing to abide by the law, abide by court decisions that they don't agree with. And they've created a real lawless atmosphere along the border, which has led to, so much hardship and mistreatment, inhumane approaches toward dealing with migrants, particularly children. So we have to keep trying to hold them accountable, doing everything that can possibly be done. And the press has a big role to play here because, the press is often the members of the press are who discover that children are in hotels or that, the Border Patrol or ICE are not following the orders. So the press has to stay engaged. Advocacy groups, religious groups, everybody has to keep fighting as hard as possible to help as many people as possible until we can change the policies and enforce the laws again. And that's, I think, a very sad but accurate description of where we are.
Yeah.